This is Marina Totino, and she builds tiny worlds. She's made a literal career of creating the most amazing tiny things, and there's a reason that her creations are being sought out for movies, TV shows, and album covers.
Hey, I'm Alex, and today we're pulling a Miss Frizzle and shrinking down to explore the world of miniatures.
If you want to blow up the White House, fly the Millennium Falcon, or visit Hogwarts, there's only really one way to do it right: miniatures. A trip to the moon started the trend over 100 years ago in 1902, and since then we've gotten blockbusters like The Lord of the Rings and Blade Runner 2049. The towering city of Minas Tirith still holds up 20 years later, and the level of detail in the futuristic sci-fi Los Angeles of 2049 would blow your mind.
Now, I could legitimately sit here all day and simp over the technical ability of these artists. Or we can go on a field trip.
Montreal is home to more than 40 visual effects companies, making it one of the largest post-production hubs in the world.
So it's no surprise that we have some serious local talent here.
Marina Totino is a photographer, digital artist, miniaturist, and filmmaker. She's worked on movies, TV shows, and commercials, but miniatures have become an obsession, and she's building all of it right here out of her Montreal apartment.
I started out making miniatures because I come from a film background and I studied filmmaking. I've always loved filmmaking, but I also have a heart. I love stop motion and I wanted to get into stop motion. So I'd written out this entire script. I started building out characters and fleshing out ideas, and I started making this set. And I started in 2017, just building this little house. That was one of the first dioramas or miniatures that I'd built, and I fell in love with it instantly, and I couldn't stop building miniatures. And it came to a point where I realized I don't want to necessarily do stop motion right now. I want to focus on set design and focus on making miniatures and creating these spaces that don't exist so that I can film inside of. What draws me to it is the ability for me to express myself and express a lot of the darkness and isolation that I often feel. I love playing with light. I love creating atmospheres, feeling, and revisiting places that might have existed at some point, but no longer do. Like, I play a lot with nostalgia, I play a lot with vintage aesthetics and stuff like that. I got into film when I was younger. As a kid, I played a lot with Windows Movie Maker and my webcam. Like, you can make people disappear and add dumb titles, add credits, and I'm like, wow, people are gonna know me now. So I got into filmmaking through that. I worked in the film industry, and the transition from film to miniatures happened when I lived in Toronto. And that's why I went there initially, because there's so many US productions that go there. So it's, if you're looking to make it into the industry and want to work on big sets, Toronto's the place to be. I was so already very artistic and wanted to do my own thing, and always knew that I would. So I think that was more of a gateway into what I actually wanted to do, and being on set was super helpful for me anyway, because now the stuff I'm shooting, I incorporate a lot of the stuff I've learned from set onto my miniatures and filming those. So my process works by me thinking of a very small idea, and usually it just kind of grows over time. And the way that I think about miniatures is I think about scenes. I think about how they would look cinematically. So then when I think of an idea, like the laundromat, for example, I'll think of what's happening in there. There's something in the laundry machine, it's spinning, and I'll think of actions. And I often create spaces where there are no people involved, mainly because I don't know how to make people yet, but also because I love the idea of creating spaces where it seems like someone was just there and just left. Once I sketch it out and figure out the scaling, I do a lot of the scaling work separately on a graph sheet and figure out, sizes, because miniatures is really all just shapes. It's just putting shapes together, tiny shapes, and figuring out how big you want certain things. So again, I'll have the idea, I'll come up with the composition in my head from a photography/cinematography standpoint, and then I'll sketch it out and start building that based on that idea, based on that sketch. And then when I start sketching things out, it'll be something like the TV there, which ends up here. I'll kind of sketch out an idea and then make little notes of what type of material I would use, what color this part's gonna be. I use a lot of styrene. I use a lot of balsa wood, basswood, cardstock paper, glues of all kinds, things of all kinds. Sometimes I'll be on the street and find a bunch of shit and I'm like, I can use this. There was the ice storm in Montreal. Branches and trees fell onto the streets, and I took that opportunity and took a bunch of branches inside and started placing them into one of my miniatures, like the clown head, as trees. And it looks pretty good.
So is everything made from scratch?
Yes. One of the biggest things I worked on was one of the first commissions I ever had as a miniature maker. It was for a TV show for Crave Canada. It was a Quebec TV show called Le Fin Fond de l'Histoire, and it's a true crime TV series. They asked for 10 miniature sets, and I had to build all 10 within a span of like 4 months. It was insane. I didn't even trust my ability yet because I had just started, but I said yes to it, and I was like, I can do this. And I really pushed myself, and I built these 10 miniature sets, and the host comes in and he kind of plays around with all the little pieces, kind of explaining what happened in the crime that took place, and he explains like the scene. And I didn't know what I was capable of until I was put under that much pressure, and it was so awesome. It came out really cool. I got to make the cover art for a song by Lovejoy, which is a UK band, very awesome band. I got to create like a plane that was crashing down into the water. That was such a fun project to work on because I didn't, again, know if I could do it. And I kind of just say yes to things and then hope for the best later. That plane crash was also in the music video for Call Me What You Like. They asked me to shoot shots of when the plane was pristine and then also when it was crashing. So I just shot little shots of the model kind of moving in the air, and I had people helping me like carry it across the screen and stuff like that. It was very cool.
How long does it take to do a project like this?
For something that I'm shooting that I don't have to send off, so something that's not necessarily like an art piece that you can put up on a mantle, it takes a lot less time because I'm not so worried about what the outside looks like and how to deliver it and, you know, what materials I'm using for the walls and for the base and all that. Whereas if it was a bigger piece or like an art piece like my video store, that one is built from, you know, the inside out all the way around, and that could sit on someone's mantle. So that one takes longer because I'm really particular about the details everywhere. Whereas a set like this, like the airplane, was shot in such a way that the plane was in the middle, the background was further away, and then the water was even further front. So if you shoot it at a certain angle, it looks like everything's all together. But if you look at it from the side, everything is like dispersed. So it's not an actual diorama piece. It's like an illusion that you create with all the pieces.
This was just a small look into the even smaller world of miniatures and the incredible talent behind the magic that gets custom built for movies, TV shows, and the music industry.
Big shout out to Marina for letting me into her studio space to freak out over every little thing she's built. If you want to see more of her stuff, you can find her info in the description below. That's it for me. I'll see you in the next one.